Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. First I will sing Jai Radha Madhav. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodananda Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Bodhavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Iva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyata Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Haraye Namaha, Hari Haraye Namaha, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopala Govinda Rama Shri Madhusudana, Hari Haraye Namaha, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana, Hari Haraye Namaha, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopala Govinda Rama Shri Madhusudana, Hari Haraye Namaha, Hari Haraye Namaha, Hari Haraye Namaha. Syllable mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I was requested to speak on the chapter entitled Spiritual Instruction for Vasudeva and the Return of the Six Dead Sons of Devaki by Lord Krishna. So in doing the homework for this class, what I did is I combined all the information in Krishna book and any subsequent information that is contained in the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam on this chapter. And I would like to dedicate this class to all of you And I give my first blessing because I am known in ISKCON as a blesser. So you will receive blessings today. So my first blessing upon you is that Krishna protect you, maintain you, and keep you always blissful in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just as a point of reference, even though I am American, since 1994, primarily my preaching is with Indian people. So I consider myself 90% Indian, because that's basically my association since 1994. Most of my friends are Indian. I have a few American friends, but most of my friends are Indians. So I feel like wherever I go with Indian people, I'm in family. So may Krishna bless you. So let's get to this chapter. It is a Vedic custom that the junior members of the family should offer respects to the elders every morning. The children or disciples especially should offer their respects to the parents or spiritual master in the morning. In pursuance of this Vedic principle, Lord Achyuta Krishna and Sankarshan Balaram used to offer their obeisances to their parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. And one day, after having returned from the sacrificial performances at Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna and Balaram went to offer respect to Vasudeva, Vasudeva took the opportunity to appreciate the exalted position of his two sons. Vasudeva had the opportunity to understand the position of Krishna and Balaram from the great sages who had assembled in the arena of the sacrifice. And not only did Vasudeva hear from the sages, but on many occasions, Vasudeva actually experienced that Krishna and Balaram were not ordinary human beings, but were very extraordinary. Thus, Vasudeva believed the words of the sages that his sons, Krishna and Balaram, were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with such firm faith in his sons, Vasudeva addressed them. Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Sankarshana Sanatana Jane Vam Asya Yat Sakshat Pradhana Purushau Parao. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the Sachit Ananda Vigraha, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And my dear Balaram, you are Sankarshana, the master of all mystic powers. Therefore, I have now understood that you are both eternal. Both of you are transcendental to this material manifestation and to its cause, the Supreme Person, Mahavishnu. You are the original controller of all. You are the resting place of this cosmic manifestation. You are its creator, and you are also its creative ingredients. You are the master of this cosmic manifestation, and actually this manifestation is created for your pastimes only. The different material phases that are manifest from the beginning to the end of the cosmos under different formulas of time are also yourself, because you are both the cause and effect of this cosmic manifestation. There are two features of this material world, the predominator and the predominated, and also you, and you are the supreme transcendental controller who stands above them. Therefore, you are beyond the perception of our senses. You are the supreme soul, unborn and unchanging. You are not affected by the 6 kinds of transformations which occur in the material body. The wonderful varieties of this material world are also created by you, and you have entered as the supersoul into all of them, down to the atom. You are the vital force of all these manifestations, and you are also their supreme cognition. And as such, you are the maintainer of everything. The vital force, the life principle in everything, and the creative force which is derived from it are not acting independently, but are dependent upon you, the Supreme Person behind all these forces. Without your will, they cannot work. Material energy itself has no cognizant. It cannot act independently without being agitated by you. And because the material nature is dependent upon you, the living entities can only attempt to act. But without your sanction and will, they cannot perform anything or achieve the results they desire. The original energy is only an emanation from you. My dear Lord, the shining of the moon, the heat of the fire, the rays of the sun, the glittering of the stars, and the electric lightning, which are all manifest as very powerful, and as well as the gravity of the mountains and the energy and fragrance of the earth, all are different manifestations of you. The pure taste of water and the water itself and the vital force which maintains all life are also features of your Lordship. Oh, my dear Lord, although the forces of the senses, the mental power of thinking, willing, and feeling, and the strength, movement, and growth of the body appear to be performed by different movements of the airs within the body, they are all ultimately manifestations of your energy. The vast expanse of outer space rests in you. The vibration of the sky, its thunder, the supreme sound, Omkar, and the arrangement of different words to distinguish one thing from another are all symbolic representations of you. The senses, the controllers of the senses, such as the demigods, and the acquisition of knowledge, which is the purpose of the senses, as well as the subject matter of all knowledge, are all you. The resolution of intelligence and the sharp memory of the living entity are also you. You are the egoistic principle of ignorance, which is the very cause of this material world. You are the egoistic principle of passion, which is the cause of the senses. And you are the egoistic principle of goodness, which is the origin of the different controlling deities within this material world. The illusory energy, Maya, which is the cause of the conditioned soul's perpetual transmigration from one form to another, is also you. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are the original cause of all causes, exactly as the earth is the original cause of different kinds of trees, plants, and similar varieties of manifestation. And just as the earth is present in everything, so you are present throughout this material manifestation as the Paramatma, Super Soul. You are the supreme cause of all causes, the eternal principle. In fact, everything is a manifestation of your one energy. The three qualities of material nature, sattva, rajas, tamas, and the result of their interaction are linked up with you by your agency of Yoga Maya. They are supposed to be independent, but actually, the total material energy rests upon you, the Paramatma, Super Soul. Since you are the supreme cause of everything, the interactions of this material manifestation, birth, growth, existence, transformation, deterioration, annihilation, these are all absent in you. Your supreme energy, Yoga Maya, is acting in variegated manifestations. But because Yoga Maya is your energy, you are therefore present in everything. So at this point, Prabhupada comments in his Krishna book. In Bhagavad Gita, this fact is very nicely explained in the 9th chapter, wherein Krishna says, Maya tatam idang sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani na chahang teshu avastataha. In my impersonal form, I am spread all over the material energy, everything in resting in me. But I am not there. This very statement is also given by Vasudeva. To say that Krishna is not present everywhere means that Krishna himself is aloof from everything, although Krishna's energy is acting everywhere. This can be understood by a crude example. In a big establishment, the energy or the organization of the supreme boss is working in every nook and corner of the business. But that does not mean that the original proprietor is present there. Although in every department, the presence of the proprietor is felt by the worker, the physical presence of the proprietor in every department is a formality only. Actually, his energy is working everywhere. Similarly, the omnipresence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the action of his energies. Therefore, the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, inconceivable, simultaneous oneness with and difference from the Supreme Lord, is confirmed everywhere. The Lord is one, but his energies are diverse. Vasudeva continued praying to his two sons, Krishna and Balaram. My Lord, this material world is like a great flowing river, and its waves are the three material modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. This material body, as well as the senses, the faculties of thinking, feeling, and willing, and the stages of distress, happiness, attachment, and lust, all of these are different products of these three qualities of nature. The foolish person, who cannot realize your transcendental identity, above all these material reactions, simply continues in the entanglement of fruitive activity and is thus subjected to the continuous process of birth and death without a chance of being freed. At this point, Prabhupada comments in Krishna book. This is confirmed in a different way by Krishna in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it is said, Janma karma chame divyam evang yo veti tatvata tyaktva dehang punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna. Anyone who knows the appearance and activities of the Supreme Lord Krishna is freed from the clutches of material nature and goes back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, Krishna's transcendental name, form, activities, and qualities are not products of this material nature. Vasudeva now continues his prayers. My dear Lord, despite all these defects of the conditioned soul, if someone somehow or other comes in contact with devotional service, he or she achieves the civilized human form of body with developed consciousness and thereby becomes capable of executing further progress in devotional service. And yet, illusioned by the external energy, people generally do not utilize this advantage of the human form of life, and thus they miss the chance of eternal freedom, and they unnecessarily spoil the progress they have made after thousands of births. In the bodily concept of life, due to false egotism, one is attached to the offspring of the body, and thus everyone in conditioned life is entrapped by false relations and false affection. Indeed, the whole world is moving under this false impression and suffering material bondage. I know that neither of you is my son, for both of you are the original chief and progenitor, the personality of Godhead, Purusha with Pradhan. But you have appeared on the surface of this globe to minimize the burden of the world by killing the Kshatriya kings who are unnecessarily increasing their military strength. You have already informed me about this in the past. My dear Lord, you are the shelter of the surrendered soul. You are the supreme well-wisher of the meek and humble. I am therefore taking shelter of your lotus feet, which alone can give one liberation from the entanglement of material existence. O my Lord, for a long time I have simply considered this body to be myself. And although you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I have considered you my son. My dear Lord, at the very moment when you first appeared in Kamsa's prison house, you informed me that you were the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that you have descended for the protection of the principles of religion as well as the destruction of the unfaithful. Although unborn, you descend in every millennium to execute your mission. My dear Lord, as in the sky there are many forms, appearing and disappearing, you also appear in many eternal forms and then disappear. Your appearance and disappearance We can understand your pastimes. Who? Who can understand your pastimes or the mystery of your appearance and disappearance? Our only business should be to glorify your supreme greatness. When Vasudeva was addressing his divine sons in that way, Lord Krishna and Balaram were smiling because they are very affectionate to their devotees. They accepted all the appreciation of Vasudeva with a kindly smiling attitude. And at this time, Krishna was thinking, Vasudeva has been honored with the eternal role of my father, something even demigods like Lord Brahma cannot aspire for. Therefore, Vasudeva should not be absorbed in thinking of my godly aspects. Moreover, Vasudeva's reverence greatly embarrasses me. It was to avoid this very situation that after killing Kamsa, I made a special effort to reinforce their pure parental love for me and Balaram. But now, unfortunately, the statements of these sages threatens to revive some of Vasudeva and Devaki's previous awareness of my majesty. After thinking like this, Krishna then confirmed all of Vasudeva's statements as follows. Oh, my dear father, Vasudeva, whatever you may say, we are, after all, your sons. And whatever you have said about us is certainly a highly philosophical understanding of spiritual knowledge. I accept it in toto, without exception. Vasudeva was in the complete perfection of life in considering Lord Krishna and Balaram to be his sons. But because the sages assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra had spoken about Krishna as the supreme cause of everything, Vasudeva simply repeated it out of his love for Krishna and Balaram. Lord Krishna did not wish to detract from his relationship with Vasudeva as father and son. Therefore, in the very beginning of his reply, Krishna accepted the fact that he is the eternal son of Vasudeva and that Vasudeva is the eternal father of Krishna. So after this, Lord Krishna informed his father of the spiritual identity of all living entities. My dear father Vasudeva, everyone and everything, including me and my brother Balaram, as well as all the inhabitants of the city of Dwaraka, and indeed the whole cosmic manifestation, are exactly as you have explained. But all of us are also qualitatively one. Prabhupada now comments in Krishna book. Lord Krishna intended for Vasudeva to see everything within the vision of the Mahabhagavat, the first-class devotee, who sees that all living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and that the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. In fact, every living entity has a spiritual identity, but in contact with material existence, one becomes influenced by the material modes of nature. One becomes covered by the concept of bodily life, forgetting that one's spirit soul is of the same quality as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One mistakenly considers one individual to be different from another simply because of their material bodily coverings. And because of the differences between bodies, the spirit soul appears before us differently. Lord Krishna then gave a nice example in terms of the 5 material elements. The total material elements, namely the sky, air, fire, water, and earth, are present in everything in the material world, whether in an earthen pot, or in a mountain, or in the trees, or in an earring. These 5 elements are present in everything in different proportions and quantities. A mountain is a gigantic form of the combination of these 5 elements, and a small earthen pot is made of the same elements, but in a smaller quantity. Therefore, all material items are in different shapes or different quantities, are of the same ingredients. Similarly, the living entities beginning from Lord Krishna, including millions of Vishnu forms, and also the living entities in their different forms, from Lord Brahma down to the small ant, are all of the same spiritual quality. Some are great in quantity, and some are small, but qualitatively they are of the same nature. It is therefore confirmed in the Upanishads, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vididhati Kaman. I just want to point out now and make my own personal comment. These 2 lines which I just read that Prabhupada included in Krishna book were the first shloka I heard Prabhupada give in a lecture. In fact, I spoke about this yesterday when I gave Bhagavatam class in New Dwarka. So I pointed out that the very first time I heard Prabhupada speak a lecture in the Brooklyn Temple in 1973, these 2 lines I remember, and if I close my eyes, I can still remember Prabhupada explaining these 2 lines. So I hope I never forget that memory. So Krishna book continues. Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, is the chief among all living entities, and Krishna maintains them and supplies them with all necessities of life. Anyone who knows this philosophy is perfect in knowledge. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, thou art the same, means not that everyone is God, but rather that everyone is qualitatively of the same nature as God. And so, after hearing Krishna speak the entire philosophy of spiritual life in an abbreviated summation, Vasudeva was exceedingly pleased with his son, and being thus elated, Vasudeva could not speak, but remained silent. So that ends part 1. So before we go to part 2, we'll take a commercial break and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. No, better we'll do my favorite bhajan. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. This shloka is included in the introduction to Krishna book. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. This shloka was recited by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured South India. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshama. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Pahima. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahima. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahima. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahima. I'd like to share with you that this Krishna book is perhaps my favorite book of Srila Prabhupada, because it was Krishna book that convinced me to join ISKCON. One night, as a hippie, I was completely frustrated, miserable, upset, disturbed. I could not even sleep. And so I had gotten a month before Krishna book, but I never read it because the words looked too big, Shiro Dakashayi Vishnu. So I didn't read it. But on this night, because I was so frustrated, at midnight, I said to myself, where is that book? I'm going to force myself to read it. I need to get out of Maya. So I read chapter 1, chapter 2, and when I read chapter 6, Krishna killing Putana, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I finished the chapter, closed the book, and I said, I am going to join Prabhupada and his movement. So that was February 1973. In April, I saw Prabhupada for the first time. And on July 15th, I moved into the temple. That day was the Guru Purnima day, the beginning of Chaturmasya. And so that's the best decision I ever made in my life. And I would make that same decision 1 billion times over. So this Krishna book is very dear to me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now we will do part 2. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, the wonderful composer of this Krishna book. Prabhupada said, anyone who reads this Krishna book will become a devotee. I am living proof of that. In the meantime, Devaki, mother of Lord Krishna, was sitting by the side of her husband Vasudeva. Previously, Devaki had heard that Krishna and Balaram were so kind to their teacher, Sandipani Muni, that they had brought his dead son from the clutches of the superintendent of death, Yamaraj. So ever since Devaki had heard of that incident, she also had been thinking of her own sons who were killed by Kamsa. And so, while remembering them, Devaki became overwhelmed with grief. Out of compassion for her 6 dead sons, Devaki appealed to Lord Krishna and Balaram. Rama Rama Prameyatman Krishna Yogeshvareshvara Vedahang Vang Vishvasrijam Ishvara Adi Purushao. My dear Balaram, your very name suggests that you give all pleasure and all strength to everyone. Your unlimited potency is beyond the reach of our minds and words. And my dear Krishna, you are the master of all mystic yogis. I know that you are the master of the Prajapatis, like Brahma and his assistants. And you are the original personality of Godhead, Narayana. I also know for certain that you have descended to annihilate all kinds of miscreants who have been misled in the course of time. They have lost control of their minds and senses. They have fallen from the quality of goodness and have deliberately neglected the direction of the revealed scriptures by living a life of extravagance and impudence. O Krishna, you have descended on this earth just to minimize the burden of the world by killing such miscreant rulers. I know that Mahavishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean of this cosmic manifestation, and who is the source of this whole creation, is simply an expansion of your plenary portion. The creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation are effected only by your plenary portion. I therefore take shelter of you without reservation. O Krishna, I have heard that when you wanted to reward your teacher, Sandipani Muni, and he asked you to bring back his dead son, you and Balaram immediately brought him from the custody of Yamaraj, although he had been dead for a very long time. And by this act I can understand you to be the supreme master of all mystic yogis. Therefore I ask you to fulfill my desire in the same way. In other words, I am asking you to bring back all my sons who were killed by Kamsa. And upon your bringing them back, my heart will be content, and it will be a great pleasure for me just to see them once. After hearing their mother speak in this way, Lord Balaram and Krishna immediately called for the assistance of Yogamaya and started for the lower planetary system known as Sutala. Formerly, in his incarnation of Vamanadev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead had been satisfied by the king of the demons, Bali Maharaj, who donated to Vamana everything he had. Bali Maharaj was then given the whole of Sutala for his residence and kingdom. Now, when this great devotee Bali Maharaj saw that Balaram and Krishna had now come to his planet, Bali immediately merged into an ocean of happiness. As soon as Bali saw Krishna and Balaram in his presence, Bali and all his family members stood up from their seats and bowed down at the lotus feet of the two lords. Bali Maharaj offered Lord Krishna and Balaram the best seat he had in his possession. And when both lords were seated comfortably, Bali began to wash their lotus feet. Bali then sprinkled the water on his head, as well as on the heads of his family members. the water used to wash the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram can purify even the greatest demigods such as Lord Brahma. After this, Bali Maharaj brought valuable garments, ornaments, sandalwood pulp, betel nuts, lamps, and various nectarian foods, and along with his family members, worshipped Krishna and Balaram just according to the regulative principles. Bali offered his riches and even his body unto their lotus feet. King Bali was feeling such transcendental pleasure that he repeatedly grasped the Lord's lotus feet, keeping them on his chest. And sometimes Bali put Krishna's feet on the top of his head. In this way, Bali felt transcendental bliss. Tears of love and affection began to flow from his eyes, and all his bodily hairs stood on end. Bali began to offer prayers to the two lords in a voice choked up intermittently. My Lord Balaram, you are the original Anantadev. You are so great that Anantadev, Shesha, and other transcendental forms have originally emanated from you. And you, Lord Krishna, are the original personality of Godhead with an eternal form that is all blissful and full of complete knowledge. You are the creator of the whole world. You are the original initiator and propounder of the systems of Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. You are the Supreme Brahman, the original personality of Godhead. Therefore, with all respect, I offer my obeisances unto both of you. My dear lords, it is very difficult for the living entities to get to see you, and yet, when you are merciful upon your devotees, you are easy for them to see. As such, only out of your causeless mercy have you agreed to come here and be visible to us, who are generally influenced by the qualities of ignorance and passion. My dear Lord, we belong to the Daitya or demon category. The demons or demoniac persons, namely the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Charanas, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pishachas, the ghosts, and the hobgoblins, all by nature are incapable of worshiping you or becoming your devotees. Instead of becoming your devotees, they are simply impediments on the path of devotion. It is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, these groups are adversaries of the Supreme Lord when they follow the lead of the Daitya and Danava demons. The Yakshas, Rakshasas, Pishachas, and so on tend to be inimical because they are generally covered by the mode of ignorance. Bali's prayers continue. But you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, representing all the Vedas, and you are situated in the mode of uncontaminated goodness. Your position is always transcendental, and for this reason, some of us, although born of the modes of passion and ignorance, have taken shelter of your lotus feet and have become devotees. Some of us are actually pure devotees, and some of us have taken shelter of your lotus feet because we desire to gain something from devotion. By your causeless mercy only are we demons in direct contact with your personality. This contact is not possible even for the greatest of demigods. No one knows how you act through your Yogamaya potency. Why, even demigods cannot calculate the expanse of the activities of your internal potency. So how is it possible for us to know it? I therefore place my humble prayers before you. Please be kind to me, I, who am fully surrendered unto you. Now, favor me with your causeless mercy, so that I may simply remember your lotus feet, birth after birth. My only ambition is that I may live alone, just like the Paramahamsas, who travel alone here and there in great peace of mind, depending simply upon your lotus feet. I also desire that if I have to associate with anyone, let me associate only with your pure devotees and no one else, for your pure devotees are always well-wishers of all living entities. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Master and Director of the whole world. Please, therefore, engage me in your service, and let me thus become free from all material contaminations. You can purify me in that way, because if someone engages him or herself in the loving service of your Lordship, he or she is immediately freed from all kinds of regulative principles enjoined in the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada now comments, the word Paramahamsa mentioned here means the supreme swan. It is said that the swan can draw milk from a mixture of milk and water. It can take only the milk portion and reject the watery portion. Similarly, a person who can draw out the spiritual portion from this material world and who can live alone, depending only on the Supreme Spirit and not on the material world, is thus called Paramahamsa. When one achieves the Paramahamsa platform, one is no longer under the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. A Paramahamsa accepts only the association of pure devotees and rejects others who are too much materially addicted. In other words, those who are material addicted cannot understand the value of the Paramahamsa. But those who are fortunate, who are advanced in a spiritual sense, take shelter of the Paramahamsa and successfully complete the mission of human life. So after Lord Krishna heard the prayers of Bali Maharaj, Krishna spoke as follows. My dear Bali, king of the demons, in the millennium of Swayambhuva Manu, the Prajapati known as Marichi begot 6 sons, all demigods, in the womb of his wife Urna. Once upon a time, Lord Brahma became captivated by the beauty of his own daughter and was following her, impelled by sex desire. So at that time, these 6 demigods looked at the action of Lord Brahma with abhorrence. This criticism of Brahma's action by the demigods constituted a great offense on their part, and for this reason, they were condemned to take birth as the sons of the demon Hiranyakashipu. Here is a note from the Bhagavatam purports. Lord Krishna's Yoga Maya potency then made these sons of Hiranyakashipu pass through one more life as children of another great demon, Kalanemi. And then Yoga Maya finally transferred them to the womb of Devaki. And as soon as they took their birth, Kamsa killed them one after another. And it's interesting to note, Kalanemi was Kamsa in his previous birth. And as Kalanemi, he was also killed by Lord Vishnu during the battle on the shore of the ocean of milk when they were churning the ocean. Krishna now continues, My dear Bali, king of the demons, Mother Devaki is very anxious to see these 6 dead sons again, and she is very much aggrieved on account of their early death at the hands of Kamsa. I know that all of them are living with you, so I have decided to take them with me to pacify my mother Devaki. And after seeing my mother, all 6 of these conditioned souls will be liberated, and thus in great pleasure they will be transferred to their original planet. The names of these 6 conditioned souls are Smara, Ugita, Parishvanga, Patanga, Kshudrabrit, and Grini. They will all be reinstated in their former position as demigods. After thus informing the king of the demons, Krishna stopped speaking, and Bali understood Krishna's purpose. Bali worshipped Krishna sufficiently, and thereafter Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram took away the 6 conditioned souls and returned to the city of Dwaraka, where Lord Krishna presented them as little babies before his mother, Devaki. Mother Devaki was overwhelmed with joy, and she was so ecstatic in motherly feeling that milk immediately began to flow from her breast. And she fed the babies with great satisfaction. Devaki took these babies on her lap again and again, smelling their heads and thinking, "Oh, now I have gotten my lost children back." And so for the time being, Devaki was overpowered by the energy of Vishnu. And so in great motherly affection, Devaki enjoyed the company of her lost children. It should be noted that the milk from the breasts of Devaki was actually transcendental nectar, because the same milk had been sucked by Lord Krishna. For Lord Krishna had previously remained as an infant with Devaki and Vasudeva, but only for a very short time. Krishna first appeared before Vasudeva and Devaki in his 4-armed Vishnu form the night of his Janmashtami appearance. And after hearing their prayers, Krishna changed himself into an apparently ordinary infant just for their pleasure. But to save Krishna from suffering his brother's fate, Vasudeva at once removed Krishna from Kamsa's prison. But just before Vasudeva took Krishna away, Mother Devaki suckled Krishna once so that Krishna would not feel thirsty during the long trip to Nanda Vraja. As such, the babies who sucked the breasts of Devaki, which had touched the body of Lord Krishna, immediately became self-realized persons. The babies therefore began to offer their obeisances unto Lord Krishna, Balaram, their father Vasudeva, and their mother Devaki. After this, they were immediately transferred to their respective heavenly planets. After they departed, Devaki was stunned with wonder that her dead children had come back and had again been transferred to their respective planets. Devaki could adjust the events only by thinking that Lord Krishna can perform anything wonderful in his pastimes because Krishna's potencies are all achintya, inconceivable. Without accepting the achintya shakti, inconceivable, unlimited potency of Krishna, one cannot understand that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Soul. By Krishna's unlimited potencies, Krishna performs unlimited pastimes, and no one can describe them in full, nor can anyone know them all. Sutta Goswami, speaking Srimad Bhagavatam before the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, thus gave his verdict in this connection as follows. O great sages, please understand that the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna are all eternal. They are not ordinary narrations of historical incidents. Such narrations are identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Anyone, therefore, who hears such narrations of Krishna's pastimes is immediately freed from the contamination of material existence. And those who are pure devotees enjoy these narrations as nectar entering into their ears. So there is your benediction, your ashirvad. You have all been listening attentively, hopefully, and to the degree that you were paying close attention, you have heard this narration, and look what Sutta Goswami said. These narrations are identical with Krishna. And now you are freed from the contamination of material existence. Just see how wonderful this Krishna book is. I cannot give enough thanks to Prabhupada for composing this Krishna book so expertly that even a mudha like me, born in Malacha Yavana family, I am able to understand this high philosophy. It's only by Prabhupada's mercy. I am a fool, I am a rascal, I am nonsense. But Prabhupada was so wonderful. He was empowered by Krishna to compose this Krishna book. Once Prabhupada said, I did not write this book. This book was written by Krishna. Such narrations were spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, the exalted son of Vyasadeva. And anyone who hears them, as well as anyone who repeats them for the hearing of others, becomes Krishna conscious. So, that's why I do these Zoom programs. I am also greedy and selfish. I want to get ashirvad. So this is how to do it. Just repeat these narrations of Krishna. And only the Krishna conscious persons are eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. So I will finish up by singing one more prayer dedicated to all of you. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda 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 Jaya Jaya. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajacacharya Astotra Sattva Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Syama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Yamuna Devi Ki Jai Gonga Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Charlotte, North Carolina Ki Jai Bhakti Vriksha of ISKCON Charlotte Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol.